Good evening. We're going to get started. You're welcome. We are very happy to have you tonight and to welcome you to the second Coffee with Dr. Kara and to welcome our panel. To my left is Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, Mr. Lyle Neal. Next to Lyle is Dr. Rochelle Clark, our Assistant Superintendent of District Affairs. And next to her is our Assistant Superintendent of Business, Mr. Ken Surma. And next to Ken is our Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction, Ms. Laura Hirsch. And on the end there is our Director of Special Education, Ellen Ramsden. I'm going to take a minute before we get started just to do a little housekeeping. The first thing that I want to tell you is that we have all the comment cards right now from the box. Is the box empty? Okay, this is every single one of the comment cards from you tonight. We want to get to all of them. However, based on whatever the responses are and explanations that you'll get, of course, it might be very difficult to get through all of these. But we want you to know that the answers to any questions that are submitted here that are unanswered tonight are going to be posted on our website before Friday, this Friday the 14th. We plan to post all of those comment cards and our answers to your card if we are not able to get to it tonight due to a time constraint. Okay? I just want to go over also, if you have it with you, our rules of engagement, because we think it's important to lay the groundwork for how we're going to engage tonight. So we want you to know that comment cards must be one question per card. We want you to know that no comment card will be read publicly after the start of the superintendent's presentation. We will be respectful and listen to each other. Per Illinois School Code, the panel will not hear or discuss any complaint about an individual student or staff member, personnel action, student disciplinary matter, or pending litigation. We ask that there be no applause, cheering, jeering, or speech that defames individuals or blocks meeting progress. Please try as much as possible not to talk while members of the panel are speaking. And we must remember, most importantly, that our actions and words should always reflect what is best for our children, and our children hopefully are watching or will one day watch. So those are our rules for engagement tonight. I'm now going to turn you over to our interim superintendent, Dr. Kara Coglanese.
Great, thank you, Ms. Nash. Well, I'd like to certainly welcome you all tonight. I am very pleased to see so many of you out tonight. Is my microphone?
Yeah.
Pleased to see so many of you out tonight. We know from talking to many of you, there's a lot of interested parents here, residents, as well as community members. So we do appreciate your interest in coming out to hear a little bit about our district vision, which includes our facility plan, as far as how we're going to move forward in the district. So the purpose of tonight, number one, is to really focus on the vision and the facility plan. Our second purpose tonight is to hear from you. What do you think about the plan? What are some things that we need to consider in moving forward with the plan? When we are done, we are going to come up with an hour plan, and that will include voice from all the stakeholders within the community, external stakeholders, as well as our internal stakeholders. We are going out to many of our sites. And for the next month, I'm going out to each of our buildings to talk with staff, talking with students, talking with administrators. We want to hear everybody's voice because everybody has a different perspective on what the plan is going to look like for them and how it will impact them. So we want to make sure that voice is heard in those conversations. The narrative is very important. We want to hear not what is always just best for you, but how are we going to move our district forward for our children? Because this is their education. This is how we're going to make them future ready. Once we get done taking all the information from our stakeholders for the month of September, we are going to be bringing back the data to the board for the board to consider in their adjustment of the plan to make sure that it meets the vision for moving forward and make sure that community voice, stakeholder voice is heard. So you're a very integral part of that. And at the end of today's presentation, after the questions, you'll be allowed to take an online survey to have a chance for you to give your voice in comments as well as priorities for you in the district as well. So again, thank you for coming, and we'll start our presentation. In taking a look at where we're moving forward in the Crete Monee School District, we are really focusing on how to create future-ready students. They are going to be taking on jobs in the future, jobs that we don't even know about yet. Many of them are going to be in the tech base, maybe in the service industry, but they're going to start looking different. And are we preparing our students for moving forward in that arena? So we need to first take a look at what does it mean to be future ready. We use that word in education, we toss it around, but we say, what does it really mean? Because how will that affect our programming, our curriculum, and how we are training our staff to prepare our students? So here's our list of components. Number one is really looking at, again, STEAM labs. You've heard about STEM jobs, science, technology, engineering, we don't want to forget the arts, and mathematics. These are the jobs that, and you're hearing about this as well, that are out there moving forward. We are competing globally for these jobs across the ocean, as well as on our own soil. We are competing against other employees coming from other countries and competing with our own students. They're coming out of university for these jobs. So we do need to make sure that our students are competitive and globally aware to help them move on. The next is equity for all. That is really important, and I think that is what the facility plan is really looking for, equity for all. Are we making sure that every student is getting what they need? Not what's equal, but is it individualized? Is it taking in consideration individual learning style, cultural background, gender, learning specifications? These are all really important components in equity for all. Do they have the same access to resources? When students exit our district, they should have had access to the exact same curriculum regardless of what community you are in. Whether you are a student that's coming out of UP or Monee or Crete or Park Forest, they all needed to have access to the same curriculum, same components, the same resources. That's really important. Cultural competency. This is extremely important, especially in today's time. Notice I didn't say cultural awareness. We're beyond that. We need to be culturally competent because our students, when they leave us, they will be going out, again, working with other employees, sometimes from other countries, other backgrounds. Are they confident in that cultural sensitivity to work with anybody? And that starts with how we train our students here. It starts with how our staff is working with one another. Our administrators are working with one another. A cultural competency is really key for having a culture here in the district that celebrates the uniqueness of every individual. With technology, we've done a great job in our district with technology. We can do, continuing to do more. We have one-on-one Chromebooks where we're looking at individualized learning, personalized learning, if you will, access to online. But are we focusing on coding? Coding is now the new international language. It's not Spanish, it's not Mandarin, it's coding. Because students, no matter what country they're coming from, they do need to know how to code in today's language for understanding technology. So we can start coding as early as kindergarten. They start with drag and drops, and then they build their way up. So the time they're hitting middle school and high school, they are proficient with coding. So the time they're getting out, university work, or out in the job, or vocational careers, they have access to some that coding. Financial literacy, that's really important in today's student. Do they understand how to budget? Do they understand how to invest? Do they understand how to be an entrepreneur in a world where people are working out of their homes. They're working off the internet. Are they understanding those components of starting their own business? Critical thinking is very important. How do they know what to read on the internet? What is fake news? What is real? How do you understand what you're reading and test to make sure that it's accurate and that it makes sense? And last, global and local connections. Again, we live in the suburbs here, but are we preparing our students to go beyond the suburbs? Are they becoming acquainted with what goes on in other countries? What's government looking like? How are they thinking? How are they solving their issues, their water problem issues? There's a variety of problems that we all share. And then also looking at local connections. Are we working with our students to have them embedded within our communities? And how are our businesses integrating with us in the schools? We are in this together. We have to work as a team. We want our students to come back to our community and not leave. Some will leave. Many communities, you have at least 20 to 25% that will stay within the communities. We want them to come back. We want them to raise their children here. We want them to buy homes. We want them to have businesses here. So how are we going to have them become familiar with our businesses and become invested? And that's having that relationship. So when we talk about future ready, these are the components that we're talking about. Is it curriculum? Yeah. Is it about how we teach? Absolutely. Is it about culture? Absolutely. These things go beyond just a building, a facility. It's about how we're going to work with our students to help them be future ready and moving forward. As I mentioned to you before, equity is really important for making sure that all of our students are getting exactly what they need. And this is a great slide that shows a little bit of what that feels like. You've got the children looking over the fence. That fence is that barrier, and they're trying to watch the game. Wasn't the Bears last night, but it is the game here. So we've got the children on the far left. He's got his stand. And notice all the children have their stand, but look at the little guy on the right. He can't see. He's very unengaged. But look on the right. We've made the adjustments. The one little boy on the right has 2 steps, and he can see the game, and look how engaged he is. But the boy on the left doesn't have any stool, but that does not prohibit them from enjoying the game. So again, looking at equity is giving students what they need and not necessarily having it be exactly equal. When we start talking about our vision, we want to come back and talk about the facility plan. They work together. And I want to make sure that we're always talking about our vision first before we talk about the facility plan. The facility plan helps us get to the vision. Because if we just have the facility, it's just a building. And it doesn't matter. But it's how are we going to get here? So the district has been working on the facility plan actually for quite some time. For those historians that have been here from at least 2013, you'll see the evolution of the plan of where it was and where we're at now and what we need to do to move forward. So I'm going to go through this fairly quickly. So in 2013, we had former Superintendent John Rogers. He's charged by the board to create a facilities planning committee. Were any of you on that committee? Okay, we have one. A couple. Perfect. So you do remember. It was a community forum that was held to collect and get information about what the facility needs were. In 2014, Superintendent Nathaniel Cunningham came in. He was hired, and his job was really to start taking that vision and moving it forward. And they came up with the FMP 5+5 and it was approved October 21st, really moving that feedback forward. We had some stops and starts in between. But before that, Superintendent Cunningham announced the district will be selling bonds. Selling bonds basically means borrowing money in order to do the facility plan. So that was done in 2015. Groundbreaking for the middle school, that was when the addition took place. That was one of the recommendations. And then, as it would happen, No Child Left Behind was out, ESSA was in. So ESSA is really, I think, the pivotal piece here. ESSA, which is Every Student Succeeds Act, and again, it replaces No Child Left Behind, is exclusively focused on equity. And so that started changing the conversations. Now, you know what's going on with public funding right now with education. They've changed the whole formula, how schools are getting funding. They're taking a look at the school districts that have and have not. They want them to be equitable. So this law has started to have districts wake up to say, you know, we've got to focus on the equity piece. In 2016, the edition of the grand opening takes place in September. We had a stop here. We had the district loses a couple of their administrators at that point. And then here also August 31st of 2017, Governor Ronner signs the Senate bill that makes the priority for the funding. And then here we're at 2018. This is where Future Ready starts to play out, trying to combine all of this evolution, if you will, to move forward and making sure that it's not just equity, but also a plan that has a vision about moving students forward. Okay. Now, here was the report card that was actually done by that committee back a few years ago. And this was in 2013, and this was the grades that our buildings earned at that time. Right, there we go. So we have the high school. Let me buzz through these quickly. So you can see some of those schools were not receiving very good scores at that time. So this was 2013. You can imagine over time, our schools have continued to go and needing some repair. So let's talk a little bit about the facility plan adjustments over the years. What did they look like and where are we going with them? On the left, we have the state mandated compliance. Now, every school district receives, every 10 years, a special visit from the Regional Office of Education. And they receive an audit, which basically means all the architects go through the buildings and to make sure that everything's safe. That would require door jams, lights, making sure the water's clean, those kinds of things. And they do that every 10 years. And districts that do not meet requirements are written up. And then they have to show how they're going to fix those buildings. So that is done every 10 years. So our district certainly over time started to get further and further behind in keeping up with health life safeties. In 2014, the board did approve a plan, and that was the FNP 5 and 5. And what did that look like at that point in time? That offered new construction, renovation, and life safety. So it was a little bit of both. So the life safety had been kind of expiring for a while, and the ROE basically said to them, you need to get these things fixed, you need to spend the money. So district was ready to say, you know what, we are going to put these new facilities together, that'll take care of it. So these are some of the plans where it would be closing Balmoral and Crete Elementary, the 6th grade addition, demolishing the 6th grade center, and so forth. You can read them up there. So that was where the plan looked like at that point in time. Now there's a red check up there, the 6th grade addition. That was all that got done out of that plan. And that was for a variety of reasons. And I think there were some money pieces there at that time. So moving forward, we've got the ESSA plan coming in really pushing for equity. So equity and access for all becomes the new conversation of how we're going to move our plan forward. So this plan looks at new construction and renovation. So this looks like the new grade center construction, demolition of the 6th grade, merging all of the elementary buildings together. See the middle school expansion, an addition at Monee, and so forth. But this also includes now STEM labs, small learning centers, equalized classes across the grade levels, and upgrading of the central office. So that's where we're at with our plan right now. Now, I've adjusted this slide actually from our last coffee last Thursday because I'm trying to respond to the questions that are coming in. So I've added a slide in here about transportation. One of the things I'm noticing from families that are really concerned about transportation is how long is my child going to be on the bus if we are indeed going to grade centers. So I put these up here for you as well. So currently the district uses a total of 47 buses for elementary. And we are considered a large district. We have 80 square miles that we're covering. Rural communities tend to have large spans. And so it's not atypical for students to be on the bus for up to 50 minutes to an hour. Now, ISB, which is the Illinois School Board Association, they give guidelines. They don't tell you you can't be over 60 minutes. They give guidelines to say, please encourage you not to do over an hour for kids because that's way too long for them to be sitting on the bus. So as you look at where our time frames are for bus, we're looking at 20 to 15 minutes, depending on where students are going, because we do have some runs that are going way out in some of our more rural areas. So that's currently where we're at. Now, after grade centers, what does this look like? How does this affect my child on the bus? And we did run through these scenarios with our transportation department. So we are looking at estimating minimizing our number of buses for about 25% for the K-5 routes. And we looked at them, there would be no increase in time spent on the bus. So we would still be looking at that 20 to 50 minute span. Now the other question that comes off often is how much is this going to cost us, right? What's this going to do to my tax bill? That's very important, so we wanted to address that tonight. So I know this is small to see, so I promise you we'll get this information out for you. But this is basically what this says. We have a financial consultant that the district works with. They're called PMA. And Mr. Surma, our business manager, worked with them to say, okay, if we took out this money, what is this going to do to the tax bill, specifically with people in University Park, specifically with Crete, Monee, and all the communities? What does that do over the span of this? And like I said, we'll make this available so you can see it firsthand. So right here, what they did is they took the median homeowner's tax bill and he ran it through up to 2044. And if I can make this simple, when we go to borrow money, we have to levy for it, correct? So there's two places that we levy for it. One is for the operational costs, and the other is for the bond. In other words, how much we're borrowing. That's the one we're talking about. Because I think that's what you're interested in. How much is this borrowing of this money going to cost me on my tax bill? So that's where this comes in. So he ran it through every community median house value, and it varies, but in some years, you're saving money, it's going actually down. And in some years, it's only going up as little as $2. So this is for, I've got Crete up there, and then let me do the other one. Oh, sorry, the entire district. So this is Monee, this is Park Forest, and then University Park. And like I said, those held true in all these communities as well. So again, just for the bond payment, that would be on your tax bill. It would not go up for really any more than $2 in any of these scenarios. And that took us all the way out through 2044. So I'm going to let Mr. Surma talk about this a little bit more later. But I wanted to at least let you know what our numbers were showing with the tax bill. As we get through and thinking about what do our facilities look like, how do we want them to become future ready? These are some pictures of schools that have gone to more of a future ready approach. And what do they look like? The research out there does talk about natural lighting. The more light, the better. We don't want to be in classrooms that, have no windows. So the more light, the better. It makes them more alert. Flexible furniture. Getting away from the traditional rows and desks, but having students working in collaborative groups, working with one another. This is just an example of a library. Oops, let me back up here. This is more an example of a classroom and looking at the furniture, not a traditional desk, but really focused on collaborative space where students are using perhaps their laptops, they're working in small settings. It looks different. And in order to get students to be more critical thinkers, collaborate, and have cultural competency, they got to talk with one another. They got to solve problems. So again, it's how we instructing students and starting to engage them differently. And the furniture helps. It creates the avenue, because being in a single desk in the rows, or even clustered in fours, makes it a little bit more difficult to do that. Here's a classroom. Again, open furniture, non-traditional, students moving around, not being stuck in their chair all day. This is an example of a STEAM lab. What goes in a STEAM lab? Well, that's where students get a chance to look at robotics. They have 3D printers. They get a chance to plan and problem solve projects. This is another picture of a library. So that gives you just a vision of when we're talking about what a classroom might look like as we're looking at putting together future-ready classrooms and what we're hoping to accomplish within that. Now, we are going to spend some time answering some questions for you. I went fairly quickly today to go through them, but I wanted to give you time to ask the questions and then also take the survey and give us your input if you didn't get a chance to share your question today. Okay?
Okay, we're going to begin with questions. Actually, we did not, according to our itinerary, we're right on time with questions from 6:15 until 6:45 is the Q&A. There's 30 minutes for questions. Yes, ma'am. That was the itinerary, yes. That was what we did on the first one and the second. We have an itinerary that we've been trying to stick to. I think it's a question back there. Shh. Yeah, I can't hear the question. Mhm. Okay, and as I said at the beginning, we will allow all questions. You are feel free to leave more questions before you go, and all questions will be answered and posted to the district's website. So if you think of something that you didn't think of before, or a question you didn't come with, or comment that you didn't come here tonight with, please feel free before you leave. The box will stay there at the door, and you can drop your question in, and we will be sure to have it posted to the FAQ section of our website so that everyone can see your question or comment and the response. Okay? Yes, sir. Right. Sure. Yeah. Well, here's what we've got, Mr. Sevier. We only have a certain amount of time to try to hit at a lot of questions and a lot of comments. So what we tried to do was offer up some of the presentation for those who were not aware so that they can understand what the point of this evening is about. And for those of you after you see it, and it may jog some questions from you, we're trying to accommodate all stakeholders based on their level of interest and knowledge of the plan. So we tried to do a little bit of everything without having this be a 4 or 5 hour deal. So that's why we are happy to take any comments or questions now, and then we'll take more later on, and we'll make sure that the answers are posted for you. So we're trying to accommodate everyone. Sure. Well, Mr. Surma is going to go back and revisit those two slides. She just gave you a quick review. That was one of the questions from last week's coffee, and so we added it to the presentation for Mr. Surma to spend some time on tonight. And those two slides from PMA will also be found on the district website so that you can see it up close. We didn't create that, PMA did, and so you can only stretch so much, and we didn't want to alter it. So that too, those reports from PMA will also be posted to the district website for you to take a closer look. Right, this Friday, September 14th, by the end of the day, I will have gotten every single one of these questions that I can that we need to post to the district website. There was a lady here, Mr. Young, and then we'll come over to you. Okay, that's a question for I'm trying to do like housekeeping questions, and then we'll get into the questions, okay? Because people put in their questions before yours, and so we're going in the order that the comments were received. Okie doke? We're trying to do this the right way, you guys. Honestly, we are. We're trying to do it the right way and accommodate everyone and everyone's questions because they're all important. So we're coming back to you. Mr. Young? Yes. Well, here's the first thing, Mr. Young. I got to push back a little bit. I created the ad and the card, and we did not call it a social. It was not a social. We said that she would share future ready information. She would share a presentation about future ready. That's what the invitation said, because I created it. Yes. I just had coffee. Sure. Well, that's a single comment from you, because there are others who say we want to hear it and we want to know. So again, you guys, we're trying to serve all the constituents, all of the stakeholders. Some folks say, I don't want to hear that. Just show me the money, right? Others say, no, I'd like to hear what this is about. Others say, I just like to talk to the superintendent one-on-one. They're all are represented here. It is our duty to fully represent the entire stakeholder groups as much as possible. You better hire me tomorrow. I'll take it. I'm answering your question, sir. We're trying to get to it. You ready? Anybody else? And then we're ready to go. Start the question. Want to hear it? Here it is. The first question says, in 1998, the district settled on a consent decree. The new plan closes 2 schools in Black majority communities. How can you ensure the district and taxpayers will not be saddled with a costly and reputation damaging lawsuit? This is from a concerned parent. Dr. Coglany? No, push that. There you go.
Mr. Surma, I'm going to have you answer this one. Perhaps you know what? Repeat the question slowly, because I think there are several pieces within that question.
Okay, I'll read that again. In 1998, the district settled on a consent decree. The new plan closes 2 schools in Black majority communities. How can you ensure the district and taxpayers will not be saddled with a costly and reputation damaging lawsuit? This is from a concerned parent.
Well, perhaps I'll answer the beginning of it now that I've heard the whole question. I think we are certainly concerned about the impression that the consent decree left with many residents many years ago, and we do not want to have that repeat. That is specifically why we are out here talking with all of you, to hear from you what is important to you and what we can do differently to make sure that we don't have something like that repeat. We are looking to find and get our district to move forward, not backwards. And that is important for us to have this vision of future ready, to have it up there so we have something to work towards, and making sure that everybody understands that we have this vision to move forward to and how we're going to get us there. But again, that is why it's important for you to have your voice to say, you know, what do you like about the plan and what would you suggest to helping us move forward?
Okay. All right, the next question. The next question says, what brought the district to this backdoor referendum when it has consistently been unethical to do in the past, as the goal of 201U was complete transparency? This is from Mr. Sevier.
Mr. Surma?
Well, let me explain what's called this backdoor referendum, and that if I can. Back in about 1994, when tax caps went into effect, part of the tax cap law stated that whatever debt was on your books at that time could be continued through the sale of bonds or whatever purpose by the Board of Education for that amount. And at that time, I believe the amount was $2.4 million. In 1999, the district went out to referendum to seek to increase what was called the debt service extension base. That's what it's called, the debt service extension base, from $2.4 million to $6.4 million. That was passed by the voters. The voters said, go ahead, we'll allow you to go ahead and take out to sell bonds or borrow money up to that amount per year. And that. So now what has happened is that we have only used in that debt service extension base right now, the district is using about $600,000 of that. So it gives the board the authority to go out, not having to go out to referendum and that, but gives the board the authority to sell bonds or borrow money up to $6.4 million per year is the way it works. Now, the debt will be stretched out 20 years because in school finance, you can only mortgage something or take a loan out for 20 years. You can't go like normal 30 years like a lot of us do in our homes and that. So it can only go out 20 years. So that's how this whole idea of going out, or what's called a backdoor referendum, really, it doesn't have to go out to the voters, but in essence did go out to the voters back in 1999.
All right, next question. Why can't the new school be built in University Park? Why does Crete always seem to have the upper hand with schools? This is from Gina Williams.
All right, Mr. Surma, why don't you answer that one, and based on what we found out from our architects?
Sure. One of the things we have to ask our architects to take a look at is putting the new facility both in the new facility that is going into Crete right now at the 6th grade center site, looking at both the site of Talala and the CSK site. So to kind of give you an idea, the Talala school right now is, and I'm thinking approximately about 40,000 square feet. The new facility is going to be 144,000 square feet. So while the facility will actually fit on the site, you don't have enough room for either parking or transporting or bringing buses in and out there. So the logistics part of it is very difficult. In addition, at the Talala site, in the front of the site, the front of the school, there's a lot of kind of swamp area in that, and we don't even know if we can build on that site. We also asked them to take a look at putting it on this site too. And again, this facility is around approximately 70,000 square feet, and we would put a 144,000 square foot facility on this site. It can fit the site. If you just pick it up and move it, can fit here. But again, there's a logistics problem with bringing buses in and out of here and having enough parking here for both the sides of the school, for staff, or for visitors in that. So logistically, it becomes a problem. Both of those sites are also landlocked, so we're not really able to expand on those sites.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next question. What are the current student inequities that exist and will be fixed based on this new plan? This is from Dawn Joyce.
I'll answer some of this, and then Ms. Hirsch, you can perhaps answer some more. As far as student inequity, some of the things that we're beginning to see across the district has to do with the students and the boundaries. Some of our classrooms have more than others at certain grade levels, and that becomes inequitable for students. Some students have a smaller class sizes than others. So specifically, that is one area. Number two, some students have air conditioning and some do not. And you ask any of our teachers, our children that have been here, that is considerably impacting on their student learning because it's very hot, they can't concentrate, and some of our students are enjoying the air conditioning, so we do find that to be inequitable. And we want to make sure that we're providing a good environment for them to learn. Is there anything you want to add to that, Ms. Hirsch?
Sure. Just a couple of things. First of all, as everyone knows, this building is an IB building. So this is our only elementary school that the students have the advantage of having an IB curriculum where our other schools do not. Our other schools, every building is different in terms of the interventions that it provides students who need extra support or enrichment. Some schools have more personnel than others, where we're able to service students better. And the other piece to it, I would say, is our special classes that we have. Here students have art and music once a week all year long. They also have Spanish. In our other elementary buildings, they have art or music for half a year, no Spanish. And PE was just recently returned 3 years ago back to those elementary schools where they didn't have it taught by a specialist for several years. So, as we look across all of the buildings, they each have things that other buildings don't. So the idea of equity is to bring, and access is to bring that to all the buildings.
All right, thank you.
All right, next question. Why can't the funds go toward investing into CSK maintenance and expansion? That's from Gina.
So the question is, why can't the funds
Go towards expansion and maintenance of CSK.
All right, I'll talk a little bit, and then Mr. Sturmer, you can add on to me. Many of our buildings have life safety inadequacies, and there's quite a bit of money that needs to go in each of these buildings to get them even up to snuff, so to speak. So some of the buildings may have $7 million just to get them where they need to be, let alone adding on to make them a little bit more future ready, so to speak. What else can you add, Mr. Surma?
Just to mention a couple of things, let's talk about life safety versus also enhancements to the building. So what life safety does, life safety are really basic things that, again, as Dr. Cognisa talked about during her presentation, an architect will come in and take a look at the facility to see if there's things that need to be done in order to get it up to code, really. Because every 10 years a building goes through that, and every 10 years codes change. So you want to make sure they're upgraded and that you stay with the proper codes, especially in the school setting. The second part of that then becomes enhancements to the building that'll help the learning environment. So things like air conditioning are not a life safety issue. That becomes an enhancement to a building because you don't have to have air conditioning, but we feel it's necessary in that. So when you look at CSK right now, on the books there is approximately, and I'm talking approximate numbers here, about $1.3 million in life safety issues that need to take place, plus an additional $6 million in enhancement that the architect feels we should put into the facility. things like air conditioning and that. There's a bunch of things. That being said, then you also have program needs that may go into the facility. A STEAM lab you may want to put in. That's not included in the amount in that. So there's other things that need to go in. So again, studies have to be done. Now, we've done studies to take a look and see that it's about 7.3, but we haven't even looked at the programming yet. If we were to put proper programming here as it were in grade centers and that. So again, it just, from a cost standpoint, we think it's better to invest in grade centers and that. The other part of this then is what I've shared with the board is eliminating our operational deficit. We currently, right now, our district historically has run about a $1.5 to $2 million deficit. And it really is because we have too many facilities. And so it is to kind of shrink that down so that operationally we can do what's needed and provide the resources in the classroom for the students, and then also maintain the facilities the way we should maintain them.
All right, thank you.
All right. This school is the #1 performing school in the district. Why close it instead of making the necessary upgrades? I think we just answered that question. So she has a second question that I'll read. Also, why was Crete chosen as the site of the new school instead of UP, which I think we also answered? I'm sorry, say it one more time. All right, we'd love to tell you. And here's the thing. We said one question per, because some folks have 3-4 questions on it, and we want to give everybody a chance to at least get one round. So we will go back for the sake of saying it again. So we'll ask the first question again, okay? This school is the #1 performing school in the district. Why close it instead of making the necessary upgrades? Dr. Cogley?
I think that question has twofold. CSK is a wonderful school. There's a lot of committed staff here. The curriculum is outstanding. As we look at the equity piece in the district, some of the things that we are hearing is why can't all students have access to IB? Why is only some students get access to an advanced curriculum? And so that's one of the questions that we have to answer. How do we make this equitable? Why do some students get some curriculum and some do not? So that would be one piece to that question.
Okay. Next question. Which buildings will be eliminated? And what is the timeline? This is from Jane Castle.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, Ms. Castle says she got the answer to her question already. Oh,
I addressed that.
okay. I'd love to tell you. Here we go.
Mr. Surma can
Which-
address that.
Okay, Mr.
Which buildings will be
Surma,
closed?
the question from Jane Castle. Which buildings will be eliminated and what's the timeline?
The timeline right now for the new grade centers to open would be August of 2020. At that point, once the grade centers open, Crete Elementary, Balmoral Elementary, Talala Elementary, and CSK would be closed at that point.
All right. That was, Ken, you want to say that one more time?
August of 2020.
August of 2020. Okay. Does Mayor Covington have anything to do with our taxes being raised or the closing of these schools? For some strange reason, someone has put out a flyer that she does. Please clear this up.
I think the question is, we are completely separate entities, though we do consult with our community villages as community partners. They are completely separate.
Okay. All right, next question. Can there be a revote since there is very limited parental support for this plan? That's from Carla Godlewski.
At this point, where we're at with the facility plan is the board charged us to move forward. And that includes investigating, looking at various scenarios, gathering input from our stakeholders. So that is where we were at. So the plan is not done. We're gathering input from all of you. That's why you're here tonight. We want to hear from you. What matters? What's a priority? And from that information, we'll be bringing that back to the board for consideration as they move forward with directing us where to go next. Well, I've had some conversations with a variety of folks out there during the coffee. We are looking at the survey that is online. We have a hard copy as well as the online piece as well.
Yes. I'm sorry.
The question was, how are we gathering input from stakeholders this evening? And so I was indicating some of it was just the one-on-one conversations, and the other is we have an online survey that you'll be allowed to take tonight. We also have a hard copy of that survey to allow folks to give narrative conversation as well as prioritize what's important to them.
Yes. Okay, so for any of you that don't have smartphones or phones where you can go on and log on at the end of the night, it's really a really quick 5-question survey, and it has comments after each question for you to provide a written narrative if you want to give us more information. You can do that way, or we've printed them for you if you just want to take a moment after this and complete your handwritten version. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Sure. We're not, you know. Well, let me just, here's how we tried to solve that, Doc. We set the survey, it can only be issued from a single email address. So one of the protections that SurveyMonkey uses is that so people may not continually, do a Chicago style vote, is that you can only send it. So if you send it tonight from your phone from your phones, it cannot be duplicated. So we have a single, the setting is for a single, you can't just take it over and over again from the same. Has anybody taken it multiple times? No, it doesn't ask for your email, but it does know where they're coming from to alleviate duplicate. So that is the way and here's the thing, everybody, we're looking for your comments. So this is not about a vote. This is about your narrative. This is about what you want to tell us. So if you want to ask us the same question 5 times, if you want to give us an answer 5 times, we'll take your 5 comments. So it's not a vote. It is simply to extrapolate your feelings on the matter. So as much as you want to tell us, we've got 10 pages of narrative that we started going through today. So we want to hear the comments. We want to hear from you. So as many times as you want to tell us, we're willing to hear it. Hang on a second. Go ahead. What are you going to do?
I can address that. We are trying to put together a process. The process is, and that's where we're at right now, I think it was in June, the board gave us direction to move forward. And part of that moving forward was coming up with the plan. Doesn't make it the final plan. We have a plan for community members to look at, to give input on. And so what I've been doing since I've gotten here in July, I've gone out and met with stakeholders from all 4 of the communities to gather their input on what do they think about the plan. And I'm going out there and talking with teachers, students as well. From this data that we're pulling together, and some of them are narrative, and I agree with Ms. Nash, it's not about the vote. So if you wanted to complete it several times, you could. It's still about, what do you think about CSK? What do you think about closing the facilities? Those will be on there. That information will be taken to the school board to take a look at and look at the comments from the community and the essence of what their desires are into designing where we want to go next. And that will be done in October. October. So what we're doing, we're looking at the comments, we're looking for patterns and trends for the type of information that is coming. So if we see lots of comments about CSK, we're seeing lots of comments about, any of those, we're going to put that together. So these are strong feelings and for the district to vote. Well, the board will be taking a look at these. That's my job, is to push this information to the board for them to review.
Hold on, everyone. We're getting out of order. Hang on a minute. We got a lot of questions to go through, and I see all the hands, but we have got to do due diligence and stay true to what we promised to answer these questions that people have come out to write and to hear. We would love to take all of your questions, and I do believe that some of the administrators are going to hang around for a bit after this if you want to come up to them and have any further discussion, but we have to move on. Absolutely. Absolutely. And we're going to honor our process, right? We're going to do what we said we were going to do, and that was answer people's questions. So if people came out tonight, filled out a card, they deserve to be heard, right? So we're just going to quickly try to get through it. And we're not shutting you down. We just got to keep moving. We got to stay true to this process. Will other future-ready options be considered, like a blend of the 2014-2022 plans, such as improving CSK and closing, consolidating the, I'm sorry, I don't know what that is, the facilities. I love that CSK has smaller school environment, smaller classes, and parent-student compact with accountability to support the IB program. Also, grade centers not best due to the large 201U footprint. Monee Elementary is 15 miles from Crete State Line homes. And that was submitted by Nikki Dixon.
I might need some help on that one.
Well, it wasn't really a question. She was kind of making a statement. Let me see. Will other future-ready options be considered? She does have a question. Will other future-ready options be considered, like a blend of the 2014-2022 plans, such as improving CSK and closing, consolidating the failing schools? Yes. Oh, D's and F's. Okay, I wasn't sure what DF was. Okay, so that's what she's asking. Will there be another option considered, blending
Okay.
2014?
Mr. Serma, you can address that.
Again, I'll go back to something Dr. Coglianese said. I think those are options that we will present to the Board of Education based on a lot of the surveys that have come out, the comments that have come out, and share that with the Board of Education so that they can direct us on what direction to go with.
Okay. Guys, we're not taking responses to questions. We can't. I'm going to keep reading. When is the future Monee Grade Center expansion theoretically scheduled? 18 extra classrooms.
All right, Mr. Serma.
I'm not sure what that
The Monee expansion would begin this coming summer, actually, summer of 19, with completion August of 2020.
I'm sorry. That's okay. That's okay.
Oh, I see.
And our music, Spanish, OT, PT, multimedia, cross-gap, all of these things in the regular, or are we under building?
So many classrooms.
Mr. Soma, can you answer that question?
So again, I'll go back. The plan is for those grade centers to be ready by August 2020. Part of that process is going through a programming process, not only with administrators, but also with building administrators and teachers to assure that we have the right size building with the right amenities in it and that. So the goal, and so I'll just give you an example. What we're starting right now is we've started a process of kind of looking at the pre-K to 2 grade center, and we started doing some programming there. Once we finish with that, administrators get done, now we're going to start working on the 3-5 grade center, which is the Monee expansion one. From a construction standpoint, that will only take about 12 months to do. So again, both of those facilities will be ready August 2020 and that. So one of the things that we've done is we've done a demographic study of our out 20 years of our district, and it shows that there's a little bit in Mr. Neely, help me, there's a little bit of a decline, then it goes up again, then it really stays steady and that. Our goal also in building those facilities is not to build for what we have right now, but to allow room so that we do have some room in there for some expansion if we get more children into our district.
All right, we can't, well, okay, well, listen, if you all decide that you want him to keep asking questions, the problem is, I don't want to cut you all off. Hang on. I don't want to cut you off if you have a second question, and then you'll say, but you let him have them. So I just want us to engage in the same rules for everyone. So if we're saying he can keep talking, I'm okay. But when you get to you, I'm going to stop you at your first question. And I don't want you to say I'm being unfair. So if the group allows, he can keep going. Is that okay? Okay.
Specifically here at CSK this year, particularly, now they're multi-need, and all that comes with it. What I'm saying is, we're telling the public that there's a certain number that we have in mind, a debt that will be incurred, but we can't house with that not blueprint, but that visual that you're given in 1918.
Sure.
There simply is not enough room unless we have classrooms planned.
And so here's what I would, sure. And so here's what I can share with you of what we've done so far. And I'll give you an example of this, a hard example. So in the architect's original plan of the pre-K to 2 center, they said that classroom sizes were 1,200 square feet in this number of classes. We shared with them that we needed some additional spaces there. And we also looked at what the size of classrooms are at other facilities. So it allows us to shrink those classrooms a little bit and to add some things. So what we shared with you before is really just a framework of what it is. That's not the final design. We go through programming to assure. I can tell you right now, I am not going to oversee the construction of a building that is undersized and will not fulfill the needs of our kids, period. Okay? Right. And I agree with you. I think we've learned our lesson on that, and it can't happen that way.
All right. No, we can't. No, we cannot. And this is what I was saying, right?
We'll be around later.
Here we go. Is it realistically possible to create a Monee 3 through 5 grade center and hold 1,100 plus students and have enough classrooms for regular ed, special ed, cross-cat, multi-needs, art, music, OT, PT, Spanish, and band without the future expansion of an additional 8 classrooms? We just answered that. I think that one's a duplicate. Fair? Okay. When was the last time a thorough maintenance plan was put together for all existing schools? And how effective has the plan been? That was Stephen Poku. I'm sorry if I mispronounced the last name. When was the last time a thorough maintenance plan was put together for all existing schools?
Mr. Sermons, this one's yours.
Thanks. I believe as part of the facility plan back in 13-14, part of that took a look at some enhancements. And I don't know if that question refers to preventative maintenance things or enhancements.
Stephen, are
to the
you here?
building.
Did you mean preventative maintenance?
Are you referring to preventative maintenance, or are you referring to enhancements to the building to get it up to snuff things? Both? Okay. All right. That
Thank
helps
you.
in that. One of the issues that happens with school districts, and this school district in particular, is the fact that when you run a deficit, some things are cut and some things are not done. And historically, preventative maintenance has not been done in our facilities. Capital improvements have not been done in our facilities. I think we're all aware of that, and we all see the condition that the buildings are in. It's because of lack of funds, quite honestly. Whether it's lack of funds because of non-funding from the state or whatever it may be, it's due to that. So there has not been a lot of work that's been done on our buildings at all, and that's why they have deteriorated the way they are. Now, I believe, one second, please. So I believe back in 2014, there was a plan that was put together as part of that facility assessment plan. I believe, as Dr. Caglianese said, the only thing really that was done was an addition to the middle school and closing of the sixth grade center. We already know that addition is undersized, was not appropriately sized, and that. However, there have not been any other enhancements that have really been done in any of our facilities, and it's really been held together by Band-Aids, by just reacting instead of being proactive. And that's why the facilities have gotten into the condition they're in, really.
All right, next question.
Ms.
How
Nash,
is
can
it?
you just hold 1 second?
Oh, I'm
'Cause he,
sorry.
just
Follow
1
up.
second. He raised his hand. I think there's a couple of things. One is, and as I mentioned before, this kind of has to be a two-prong approach. One is the building of new facilities. Do you invest your money into older facilities that we have to try and correct those and that, or build new facilities to prepare us for the future and that? At the same time, we have to eliminate a financial deficit that we have in order to maintain those facilities and that. I believe that we can do both of those things and then maintain the facilities properly as we go along. We should probably be spending somewhere around $2 million a year in preventative maintenance issues with our current facilities that we have. We just don't have the resources to do that right now. And that. So again, as we move forward, we need to make sure that we have that. I think we do have that. I think we will have that as long as we're able to eliminate the deficit.
Dr. Hall, let me give you a mic.
Yes, please.
I just wanted to add to that, yes, we have issues with our buildings not being maintained over the years. Part of that issue, what I will say is, we have a new director of facilities who's been with us now 2 years. Because as a board member, we received a lot of complaints about the buildings. Also, with the life safety issues, there was a plan put together back when we received our life safety survey results. And a punch list was created to go through those things that were top priority and fix those in-house. So I just wanted to add that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hall. All right. How is it beneficial for students to switch schools 4 times during their school career, not allowing them or their families to build relationships within the school? That's Katrina Craig.
So I'll address this, and then Ms. Hirsch, you can add to it. Oh, can you repeat the question, please?
Sure. How is it beneficial for students to switch schools 4 times during their school career, not allowing for them or families to build relationships within the school?
When we have facilities where students are making those transitions, we would provide opportunities for transition activities between grade levels. In order to do that, typically what you would see with a K-5 would be a transition going to middle school. That's a big transition for students, as well as transition from middle school to high school. So we would provide similar transition points in each of the facilities as well. As far as building relationships, we are beginning to look at the design structure of the elementary buildings to create pods or smaller communities to create a more smaller, more cohesive learning environment. We want students to be able to go to school with students that they would have in several of their classes. They would be exchanging and working with other teachers, so they would build that community in that way. And then Laura, you want to add on to that?
Sure. I also, in the design right now, we're looking at schools that are at least, they're 3 years. Prior to, let's go back to before we added 6th grade to the middle school, that was a 2-year school. Students came in the first year, everybody kind of got to know the school, and the next year was their last year, and they were kind of on their way out. So I think a 3-year plan helps build relationships, plus our students and families will be together starting in kindergarten or pre-K if they're in the pre-K program. The other piece to this is with a grade center, you're designing a building that is appropriate for that age group. So now you're able to build not only students building relationships, but families building relationships in an environment that's developmentally appropriate for that particular group of students.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. Any response to that, Ms. Hirsch?
Well, I think what you said was to my point, is that in a school, a primary school that's designed for primary students, part of that is building community with the students, also building community with the parents. So I think Dr. Coglanese stated that, there would be activities designed to pull parents in for students in each of those grade centers, because that would be the design of the school to be appropriate for that age group. Part of the transition from school to school, now, if you think about what we do right now, students may be in an elementary school through 5th grade, but when it comes time to go to the middle school, now we've got students merging together from 5 different schools. And I can tell you, you'll see it if you look at my academic report next week, our 6th grade scores, at least the scores, are not where they need to be, because we're putting them in an environment where teachers now have to learn about students from 5 different places, where we're able, if they're all coming from one school to the next, we're able to build a much smoother transition academically, socially, with parents, everything, as you make that transition to the next building.
All right. No. Can now see? See how you doing me? I do it. All right. Well, we actually are over our time, everybody. Let me ask this last question. We're after 7. Have the SEL learning standards been taken into consideration in the decision-making process? And that's from Deborah Taylor.
I will address this, and then Ms. Hirsch, you can continue. Oh, Ms. Bellotti as well.
Yes, I don't know if you can hear me. Yes, Mr. Surma mentioned that when we were looking at the building and the classrooms, that our pre-K, our ELC was very much considered in terms of the space that they would need. Their gross motor development that differs, of course, a little bit than from the primary or a little bit older. So all of those things were taken into consideration.
Thanks.
All right, we are going to take all of these. These are all the ones that we were able to answer tonight, and the ones that we were not, as promised. I have them all here, and we will ensure that every question that was not read tonight will be added to that FAQ before the end of the week. And we're asking that you please take a moment now and log on to take the survey if you've not yet taken it, and tell us your thoughts and what you think.
Ms. Nash, there's a hard copy of surveys in the back, correct?
Yes, for
If
anyone who
people
does
choose to
not
use
have
that.
an electronic device, you may see the ladies in the back, and they will give you a hard copy of the survey for your feedback.
There is a question from a member. They want to know about questions that were not answered. We're going to put those on the website for everyone to look at. The questions that, correct.
I'm sorry. Ask that again.
For a month. You have a month. You can leave that here.
You could leave it in the box. Is that what you're asking? Oh, yeah, you got time. Yes. You can
District
bring it back
office.
until the end of September. Yeah.
Before everyone leaves, I just wanted to thank everybody for coming out tonight. We are sticking around. Come up and visit and ask your questions. Thanks again.
Mrs. Tobin, Terry Tobin.